Hey, greetings, golfers. Welcome to the Hot Golf episode 12. Hot Golf, of course, it means Heart of Texas. That's what it stands for. Hopefully, by now, you know that. 11 episodes into our 12th hole today. Hot Golf stands for Heart of Texas. It's our 19th, ongoing 19th hole golf chat, covering the latest happenings in golf in the heart of Texas, around the great state, and of course, around the world. But we try to keep it within a 100-mile radius of Austin, Texas, and things happening in our golf world in our backyard. In addition to the big stories around the world, we know that. Show emanates from right here in Austin, Texas. I'm your number one T-Box host, Erin Hogan, also host of Game Time, each weekday morning, 6 to 10 on 102.7 ESPN. As always, my playing partners, numbers 2 and 3 every week. He's an avid golfer, golf enthusiast, more than 50 years playing the game. He's also the CEO and man in charge over at the historic Callahan's General Store. He is our friend Charley Wilson, and our third member every week is a PGA Club professional, brings 30 years, almost 30 years of on-the-ground knowledge of the Austin golf scene as the head of golf operations at Austin Municipal Golf or City of Austin Golf. Our man, Steve Hammond. Guys, how are you? You can see our very special guest I'm going to introduce here in a minute, but you guys ready for a great conversation?
It's going to be a great conversation today. I'm really excited about being here today.
Yeah, me too. And holy smokes, look at it. What a tremendous fourth we have in our round today. Who better to talk golf and the golf scene here in the 512 around the world than the head golf coach at the University of Texas and the Texas golf team. On the men's side, he is John Fields. Coach Fields, I don't know if you all know this, currently the longest tenured head coach at the University of Texas. He took that spot when men's swimming and diving head coach, the legendary Eddie Reese, finally retired back in 2024. John is now in his 29th season as head coach at Texas, has guided the Longhorns to 23 NCAA championship appearances and 27 opportunities. Longhorns have posted top 11, top 5, and top 15, or 11 top 5, 11 top 5 and 17 top 15 finishes in the NCAA championship, a couple of national championship, a couple of runners-up. He's a national coach of the year 3 times, and he was inducted into the Texas Athletics Hall of Honor in 2024. Welcome to the Hot Golf Podcast, Coach John Field. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hook 'em horns to all of you guys. Thanks for having me on today. I'm excited about it. Love what you guys are doing. Just so excited about golf in Central Texas, to be quite honest with you, whether it's public golf, private golf, high school golf. It's a good time. It's a good time.
Well, that is our main focus on this one, and that really was what it started with Steve and Charlie and I, because there's so many stories and things happening and on golf courses all over Central Texas, including at the UT Golf Club, which we'll talk about. But John, let me start with this, then we'll get into some specific golf. I know Charlie and Steve have a list of questions, but you've been around. It's almost 30 years now at UT, and I've been doing radio for a long time, almost that long. You're a great person to talk about the big picture and the state of the athletics program at the University of Texas right now, not just your golf team, but all the programs with Chris Del Conte and the level of success, women's side, men's side. You've seen the ebbs and flows of that over 30 years. Where do you judge it and see it right now at UT, just in general on the 40 acres with the 500 or so student athletes?
Yeah, it's a wonderful time to be involved with Texas athletics. I tell people all the time, that, and you would know this. Collegiate athletics, there's never been a more chaotic time, and that's just simply because of the House ruling NIL, which is name, image, and likeness, which is also dollars that can be spent or paid to your athletes. But NIL, the portal, and a myriad of other things that are happening. So there's a lot of chaos with the NCAA and with collegiate sports. And yet it's never been more important to our donors, to our alumni, to our supporters, and to our ticket holders. So it's kind of a wild moment, because you would think that would, with the chaos, that would detract from the success of what we're trying to accomplish, which is to win championships. And yet it's elevated the standard. And then we're being led by an absolutely great individual in Chris Del Conte. Again, I feel like I got to live through the Lost Dodds good old days, which would have been basically the year 2000 through 2009 or 10. And it seems like we're entering that same we just have such a wonderful opportunity to have success because Chris Del Conte has done such a magnificent job of creating opportunities for all of us, and not necessarily just financial, but with the synergistic value of every program at Texas has been valued up. So winning a championship at Texas, there's never been more high value. And it's always been like that, but it just seems like it's even more. And then going into the SEC, amazing soup to nuts for every program at Texas. You're faced with other programs like a Georgia, like a Florida, like an Alabama, just to name a few. Vanderbilt has valued up their program. So it's an unbelievable time, and I just feel energized to be able to do that. I'm 67 years old. I've been here 29 years. I was 10 years at New Mexico prior to that. But the bottom line is that we've got a chance to win. Our facilities are magnificent. UT Golf Club is magnificent. You can go on campus and see the new practice facility that they're building for football right now. And then the Moody Center. Every person, every coach has a chance to recruit at a high level and to win at a high level.
Yeah, Coach, this is Charlie. I think that you hit the nail on the head. That all the chaos has brought a whole nother line of excitement around college athletics and kind of the professionalizing, if you will, in many ways of college athletics. And I think that must pose a lot of challenges for you as the leader of the golf program and a storied golf program at the University of Texas. And specifically, how would you say that? Just drill down, right? Let's go right to NIL. How has something like NIL changed the men's collegiate, women's collegiate golf landscape, and as well as the UT program? I mean, how much money do you now start to look at to make your program to be as competitive as it always has been?
Well, first of all, we're fully funded, and one of the opportunities at Texas that Chris Del Conte made work initially with our CFO, Rob Novak, was to fully fund the sport. So, for instance, we've always worked and operated off of 4.5 scholarships. But when the House ruling came into effect last July 1st, so that would have been July 1st, 2025, and we went to roster limitations, meaning we never had roster limitations, but what we were was an equivalency sport. So we only had 4.5 scholarships, and we could spread those around in amongst our team. So one guy might be on a full scholarship, another guy might be on 25%, another one might be on 10%. But you try to make it work that way. And we were always pretty successful at doing that, but it wasn't a level playing field because, like, just take for instance Oklahoma State. They would have had those same 4.5 scholarships, but they also had what was called easily attainable academic aid. So their university, their legislature made monies available so that kids could qualify on a little bit lower value for academic aid. And then you could combine that. So they were always kind of working off of 9 scholarships. So if you double your 4.5 and you go to another 4.5 academic, you got 9. So we were competing against that. Now we have what's called roster limitations. And the SEC said that men's golf would be at 8. The NCAA says it's at 9. 8, 9 really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Some people might say that it does. I don't necessarily think that. But we have roster limitations of 8 kids. And now we're fully funded for those scholarships. So we have 8 full scholarships. So I can go out on internationally, nationally, and recruit at a high level because I've got a full scholarship. So now what we're called is more like a head count sport, meaning we have 8 guys on our team and they have full scholarships. We never had that before. So that was kind of a gift. And then the women have 9 scholarships, and that's just gender equity opportunities to make the numbers work for Title IX. It's a whole myriad of circumstances that we deal with. But to be quite honest with you, I love what's happening with some people thrive in chaos. I'm not saying that I'm that person, but the person that's taken all the arrows for us is Chris Del Conte. He's finding ways to create revenue streams so that we can be solvent um, as a program. But in the meantime, he's given us opportunities to compete at the highest level, and it shows because every one of our teams is highly competitive. I mean, what just happened over the weekend? Both our men's and women's swimming teams won SEC championships. You got to run pretty fast here to feel like you're keeping up with the other programs. There's tremendous synergy here, and we've got great leadership with our football, basketball programs, our baseball program. Mike White with women's softball, Coach Vic with women's basketball. It really does have the feel of Augie, Coach Barnes, and Mac Brown. It's kind of all here again.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. How do
And the
you
women's-
get the best kids to campus? Is it the
Yeah,
same
so-
formula or is it different now?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'll tell you that it has a different look because we have multiple guys on our teams that have their own agents, and that never existed before, but they have an agent. And then they have opportunities. So we have guys that are being paid by Titleist. We have guys that are being paid by TaylorMade. We have guys that are being paid by Callaway. And why would they do that? Well, they know that these guys are pretty good. We've got 5 guys in the top 100 in the world on our team right now. We have the number 4, number 10, number 16, number 26, and number 88. And that's out of thousands of amateur golfers, right? And to have 5 of those guys on your team, I told them the other day, it's like I'm coaching an all-star team. And if they don't get with it, they're not going to look at them and say, why weren't those guys successful? They're going to look at me because they're so good. And all you need to do is just watch them play, and you'll know that they really are at a different level. And there's several guys on my team that are going to have a chance to win and have a career on the PGA Tour. So just how do I get them to do that? The historic value of Texas golf, and it starts way back when, right, with Harvey Penick and his brother Tom Penick. So Texas golf is 99 years old. There's been 5 coaches since then. Tom Penick for 4 years, Harvey Penick for 30 plus years, which was like 1930 through 61. George Hannon, who was the head golf coach and head pro at Morris Williams, but he was also the head golf coach. He coached Tom Kite and Ben Crenshaw. So he was basically there from 1962 to 1981. Then Jimmy Clayton. And Steve would know this because he got to see all these different coaches over time, with Coach Hannon being one of the most historic. And then myself, 1997 to present, which is 29 years. So 5 golf coaches in 99 years, 113 victories as of today on the PGA Tour, 12 major championships by 6 different major champions. And then since we opened the doors here at UT Golf Club, there's been 39 victories on the PGA Tour, 2 additional national championships, 2012 and 22, to go with 1971 and 72. And there's been 7 major championships, with Scotty and Jordan being the bulk of those. But 5 guys have won since we've opened the doors here. Cody Gribble, Dylan Fratelli, Jonathan Vegas, and then certainly Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth. And plus, they just happen to be number ones in the world at their particular time. So if I was recruiting you, Erin, or Charlie, I would be telling you those same things. And why I would say that is maybe we don't have quite the dollar value that we can spend on you. Like, let's say, maybe Pepperdine's wanting to give you a little bit more money. And I'm like saying, well, the difference coming here is the mentality. So Central Texas Golf is significant in the world of golf, and it has a historic value. It's not just us. It's not just Texas golf, University of Texas golf. It's Central Texas golf. A lot of great players have come from here, and then the state of Texas as well. Byron Nelson, Ben Hogan, Bill Rogers down in San Antonio, and then Tom and Ben, Tom Kite, Ben Crenshaw. You can name so many major champions, Jackie Burke, Jimmy Demerit, that came out of the
Trevino.
state of Texas. And then you've got Jordan Spieth and Scotty Scheffler. For us, the development of golfers has a lot to do with that. We're in the hill country, and these golf courses are the real deal. And the kids that are growing up in high school are getting a chance to play great golf courses. And our city's done a nice job as well. And I'm particularly proud of how they've managed it, and kind of went in and redid Morris Williams. And then obviously Muni has its own history, and there's so many people that love that place. And then Jimmy Clay, Roy Kaiser, and then Gray Rock. There's a lot of good things happening. We have great weather. It's tough weather sometimes. It makes you tough. You got to hit the ball straight, and you got to get it in the hole.
Well said, John Fields. Steve, I want you to jump in with a question, but while we're on that, with the PGA wins and the prestige of Texas golf, the brand of Texas golf, we've talked a lot here on our first 11 episodes, Coach, about the PGA Tour coming back to Austin in November with the Go-Go Championship out of Barton Creek, and we've talked about who's going to play. You may have some knowledge of maybe some former players of yours that are wore the burnt orange that may come and try to bring crowds out to Barton Creek as the PGA Tour returns, which we're all excited about.
Oh, there will be. First of all, that's another group that has done just a great job. Omni with the Barton Creek golf courses, but upgrading and making Barton Creek Canyons, taking it from 7,100 yards to 7,600 yards, kind of bringing it into the future. You're talking about the Good Championship that's going to be played there. YouTube's going to be involved. The Golf Channel's going to be involved. The vibe of, I was just watching the ATX Open for tennis on TV, and just the vibe of sports in the city of Texas. We don't need pro sports. Essentially, we don't need a pro football team. We have the University of Texas football team. That's all we need. But we've now got Formula One, which made Austin a cosmopolitan town. I mean, you can get a flight to Paris, Frankfurt, London if you need to go straight out of Austin, Texas. Crazy. And then you've got these, other sports that are thriving here. But golf just seems to be, I mean, it's on fire right now. I don't know how Steve deals with it, because he's probably got more golfers than he's got golf courses right now.
I definitely have twice as many golfers as I have golf courses. I wanted to talk about the organization of talent that you face every week, or every time you guys tee it up. An example is the team's going out to Vegas next week, but you've got a player going to play at Bay Hill.
Right.
Adam being away, but he's going to go play PGA Tour while your guys go to Vegas, and that's not going to happen in any other sport. I want to know the thought process behind a player going to do that, to go play at a larger scale event, and organizing the talent overall, because you're going to have 9 all-world players on your team anyway. Just speak to that a little bit.
Right. So that'll be Daniel Bennett, and Daniel's from South Africa. He was the number 1 junior in South Africa and the number 1 amateur in South Africa. Okay. And he's ranked number 16 in the world right now. His compatriot, which would be Christian Moss, who's a senior for us, is number 4 in the world, number 2 in PGA Tour University right now. Both of them had the same resume when they got here. They were both the number 1 junior and number 1 amateur in South Africa. Brandon Stone, who's won 3 times on the PGA European Tour, which is now DP World Tour, he had the same resume. And Dylan Fratelli, who helped win the national championship for us in 2012, who's on DP World Tour, has been ranked as high as 50th, or in the top 50 in the world, and finished 4th in the COVID Masters. Daniel Bennett is just an exceptional, great player, and he played in the Palmer Cup last year and out of that, all the kids vote on the most deserving person, the best player to play at Bay Hill this year, and he was voted that. So he will go there. In the meantime, we have the most depth I've ever had on my team. I have two freshmen that are trying hard to break in. That would be Adam Villanueva, who you mentioned. He was a state high school champion, a great player out of Austin Westlake. And then Brooke Simmons, another great player out of Highland Park in Dallas. Those guys are having a hard time breaking in, but they're both going to be All-Americans at Texas. You mark my words. They're both great kids, and they're really good players. But they're going up against some of the best players in the world. So right now, we have kind of a luxury. We've got tremendous depth. There is a roster limitation of 8 guys. But when that came into effect again, July 1st, after the House ruling of 2025, and that was a court case that figured out how we were going to deal with NIL. But that's when roster limitations came in. They said that we've had 3 or 4 years to digest the kids that are on our team currently. So you could tag one player, and that's what we did, Eduardo Derbez Torres. And we recruit the world. So it's international golf these days, but that's what golf is. It's an international game. It's not just a Central Texas game. So anyway, if we're going to compete at a high level, you get a guy like Eduardo Derbez Torres, who won the Western Junior. He's from Monterrey, Mexico. His dad played tennis at Texas. His dad got an engineering degree at Texas, but they're from Monterrey. Eduardo you might have thought he was our 9th guy this last year, but now he finished 6th in the world amateur and played with Christian Moss the last day in Singapore 3 months ago. Christian won the world amateur by 10. But they tied that last day. Eduardo shot 69 and Christian Moss shot 69. So when we go to Las Vegas, we don't feel like we're not going there to win. We're definitely going there to try to win. And we're one of the top 1, 2, or 3 teams in the nation right now. But I've never had more depth. And that's part of the reason that we have these roster limitations, but we're fully funded for scholarships. So every guy on my team essentially is on a full.
That's great.
And if they're
So
not right now, they will be next year.
How do you get that 6th player with having that? They're so close and so, so competitive. How do you figure that out? Is it, yeah.
Yeah, everything we do is about recruiting. If I'm a good recruiter, my wife's happy. If I'm a good recruiter, Chris Del Conte's happy. If I'm a good recruiter, my donors, alumni, and supporters are happy. And if I'm not, then you guys are talking to a different coach. That's all there is to it. So over the years, I think my talents have been refined to a certain extent where I can, you're not just talking to a coach, you're talking to a salesman, right? So, but the one thing that we do, and Rick Barnes told me this a long time ago, he said, you need to utilize your players in your recruiting. He said, but the double-edged sword there is you better do what you say you're going to do, because if they believe in you and they trust you, and in our case, if they think they're going to get to the PGA Tour, then they're going to come to Texas. If you don't do if you lie to them, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, then they're not going to help you, and you're dead in the water. So your players are either your best recruiters or they're not, and there's no in between. So I would say that from my perspective as a coach, that we are going to do what we say we're going to do. We're going to tell them everything that we're going to do when we're recruiting them, and then we're going to live that while they're here, and then we're going to pray that they have a great experience. We're going to work hard to do that. And then if they do, then it's going to perpetuate the success. And that's what has happened.
That's awesome.
Texas head golf coach Tom Fields with us. On that line, in our first 11 episodes, we've had a myriad of guest coach and a lot of them from the junior level. And they've talked about, and I'm sure you've seen it, Steve has seen it, the explosion of junior golf, the talent at the junior golf level. I wonder how you pick the guys, how do you identify on an international level the guys that you think are right fits for your program? There are so many great golfers out there. How do you identify the 8 players, on a rotating basis, who you think fit your program? That's not a big number for the number of golfers playing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm a Class A PGA professional. So I worked in a golf shop years ago. I played college golf at New Mexico, qualified for the PGA European Tour in 1982, played the entirety of 1983. Seve Ballesteros, Sandy Lyle, Nick Faldo, Bernard Langer, Greg Norman, Ian Woosnam, all those guys were full time at that time, and they were way better than I was. My wife was my caddy, and we spent way more money than we made. So I got into the business of golf in Southern Arizona, and I became a Class A PGA professional through the PGA curriculum, 3.5 years, got it. And right when I got my Class A, my coach at New Mexico, Dwayne Knight, went to UNLV, and I managed to get the job there at New Mexico and was there for 10 years. So the education that I got as a golf professional, giving truly thousands of lessons, because I count group lessons like 1, 1, 1, 1. So you might have 25 people in a lesson, but I actually did give quite a few golf lessons. So I became a pretty good teacher, but that also gives you the eyes to look at a player and kind of dream about their success. And that's kind of where we're at. So when we're recruiting, we're out constantly going to golf tournaments and assessing who these players are. But I recruit winners. Maybe a state high school champion like an Adam Villanueva, who's had some success out on a national level. Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth, they're the only two golfers, I think, in high school history that won 3 straight state high schools. Steve Hammond would know that, but they were both winners. Period. And in their cases, they were both the #1 juniors in America. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out that those guys are going to matriculate in the right way. But we recruit winners. Western Amateur champion, Southern Amateur, Southern Junior champion, United States Junior champion, Texas State High School champion. Winners have a little bit of a different edge, and that's what we recruit.
Steve-O?
You talk about recruiting winners, and we know how deep you mentioned 113 PGA Tour wins.
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to be till you have 114 and Pearson Coody punch through that ceiling? He's close.
The cool thing about where Pearson is right now, that is correct. I think he's 5 or 6 top 20s in a row. The other thing that he is he's top 50 in the world right now. And so he's, I think, 46th, and he might actually move up this week to a little better, 45 maybe. And if you're in the top 50 at the end of March, then he's going to get an invitation to play in the Masters. That will be monumental because his grandfather is still with us, not doing great physically, but pushing late 80s right now, but won the 1971 Masters, Charlie Coody. So for that family to have that legacy, and what will happen there, and Steve, I know you got to see those guys a little bit, but if Pearson does that, then Parker's going to want to do this, and then Pearson's going to do this, and then they just kind of stair step each other. And the cool thing about that is we'll have more championships. There's no question in my mind. And I don't say that. I mean, I understand the value of how great professional golf is and how good those guys are out there. So I never take that for granted, but I do believe in our guys. People ask me all the time, did you think that Scotty Scheffler would be #1 in the world? Or same with Jordan. I would just tell you that you're in my office right now. They've been in my office, and I would speak to them and say from time to time, when you become the #1 player in the world, and Jordan really wanted to be the #1 player in the world, but I also felt like Scotty had similar circumstances with his putting, his chipping, and the things that he is. He's dynamic. But I would say when you become the #1 player in the world, this is kind of how it's going to look. And these are the things that you're going to do. And you don't have to look too far to know that, Scotty and Jordan Ben Crenshaw, Tom Kite, Justin Leonard, Mark Brooks, they're all living kind of a similar life in terms of their competitiveness. They're compartmentalized. So you've heard Scotty probably say that, be present or be where your feet are, meaning when you're with your family, you need to be focused and with your family. You don't need to be daydreaming about other things. When you're in school or you're doing business, that's where you need to be and be at your best. And then when you're on the golf course inside the ropes, that's where you are. Nothing else matters at that moment. And more more than anything that I've ever learned here, and it is the gift has been being around six major champions, because you can imagine there's coaches that will never get to be around that kind of person. And Tom Kite and Ben Crenshaw, what a gift to the city of Austin, and to me on a coaching basis, because to be around people like that, if you can't pick up something from those guys, you're just not listening.
No question. While we're on the current players, I love the story of Jonathan Vegas, and we know that Scotty and Jordan were great junior players in the state of Texas. For our audience, the story of Jonathan Vegas, who's now won on the tour and then kind of a late bloomer, but I think it's one of the things I love covering college athletes and college athletics coaches, those stories. And I think Jonathan Vegas, who's still banging it out there a long way and winning, to tell our audience how Jonathan Vegas ended up at Texas and what that path was like.
Yeah, I had some people. He had come up to Houston to be with his teacher Kevin Kirk, and then Francie Betancourt, who just passed away, was the national coach down in Venezuela years ago. And they decided to kind of move their operation to Houston, and to begin to bring kids from Venezuela and give them an opportunity to maybe play college golf. In the meantime, I saw Jonathan at Junior World, and it would have been like, in baseball terms, it would have been like a scout going to a high school baseball game and seeing some kid throwing a golf ball or a baseball 103 miles an hour, right? But the kid has no control, but he has speed. You can't teach speed, right?
Yeah.
So in Jonathan's case, 6'3", a mountain of a man, but this unbelievable golf swing, great hands. And you see him, and he was in third place at the Junior World Golf Tournament in San Diego going into the final round. He didn't have a great last day, finished top 10. It's the first time anybody had ever seen him in the United States. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a talent. And in the meantime, I was going after another guy, a guy named Casey Wittenberg from Tennessee, and he made a last minute decision to go to Oklahoma State. So that was a killer. But I happened to be utilizing my video technology at campus. And one of my players, John Clark, who won the Western Amateur and was an All-American, came in, and we were looking on TV, and he says, "Who's that guy?" Because I was looking at Jonathan Vegas's golf swing. I said, "That's a guy named Jonathan Vegas. He grew up in an oil camp in Venezuela, dirt poor, and he's spending a little bit of time now in Houston because some people have made available the opportunity to maybe go to college." He said, "Coach, you need to get that guy." And I'm like, I'm going to try to get that guy. And so he looked at Oklahoma and Washington. He came to Texas. Nobody had ever gone to college in his family. And Jonathan, I'll never forget this. He needed 21 hours to graduate his final semester, and he did it. And they warned him, like, you can't do it. You won't be able to do this and be productive. Well, he was very productive on the golf course his senior year. And when he went to the U.S. Amateur, he got beat by Colt Knost in August before he turned pro in the semifinals of the U.S. Amateur at the Olympic Club. But this is a guy that was dirt poor. He graduated from the University of Texas. Then his brother came and played for us and was actually on our national championship team, Julio Vegas. But their world changed because of collegiate sports, and more explicitly, the University of Texas and Central Texas. And so now Jonathan and his entire family live in in Houston at the Woodlands. And he is by far the most appreciative guy that I've ever coached, meaning everything that you gave that guy, whether it was a new pair of shoes or a shirt that would be part of our equipment or our just anything that we would give him, anything, equipment, apparel, shoes, whatever. It was like looking at a kid who's seeing something he really wanted underneath the Christmas tree. That's how appreciative he is. And he would, if his shoes didn't fit, he wouldn't even tell you because it was just nobody had ever given him anything before. So I just love that guy. He is an unbelievable guy. He's won almost $20 million playing. He's won 4 times on tour now, and he's definitely a gift that came to Texas.
Coach, what is it's a fascinating story there. And what still is the value of the educational experience? You talked about Johnny Vegas, 21 hours his last semester. And then, there's playing golf, which of course, there's a focus on, but the educational experience as well, in class, out of class. What kind of weight does that also carry with the young men that you bring through this program?
Well, I can tell you part of the reason that Scotty Scheffler came here was because it wasn't so much that Scotty wanted a business degree. He knew he was capable of getting it if he could get in to the McCombs Business School. But his parents really wanted him to get a business degree. And they wanted him to get a business degree because they knew that their son wanted to play on the PGA Tour. He had lived that since he was 7 years old, a little kid that's wearing slacks and a golf shirt from then on. And he wanted so badly to be on the PGA Tour. But his mom and dad felt like, look, he's choosing between Stanford and Texas. We want to make sure he's going to be in the business school. And thank God he got into business school. He did it himself. He had good grades. But he got in, and then he got that degree in finance. And for him and for his family, that was significantly important, just in case he didn't make it. And not everybody's going to make it. So the degree from the University of Texas still is high value, no question about it. And further, just coming to Texas and taking on the responsibility of the success that is here is a pressureful situation for a young person. And if they can sustain that, they're probably going to have success. But you also have nearly 1 million alumni around the world that are not necessarily a support system, but opportunities everywhere you look, whether you're in Japan, Asia, Europe, Eastern Europe, South America, Africa. It doesn't matter. We have alumni around the world, and certainly here in the United States. So it's still really important. I know it's almost like there's mercenaries with NIL, right? Because they may just come in for a couple years. But still in all, if you're going to graduate from the University of Texas, you have to get 60% of your degree from Texas. That means there's kind of a sweet spot. If somebody's going to transfer in, they need to be no more than 1 year at a school or maybe 2. But once they get to 3 or 4 at another school, it's really hard to come to Texas unless they've graduated and still have a year or 2 of eligibility. And you do have some kids like that because they've taken classes in high school that transfer in for grade purposes. And so some kids actually could graduate within 3 years at a particular university and maybe still have 2 years of eligibility. But the academic ability here at Texas that speaks to people around the world is important.
No doubt.
Did you have any shot in the world whatsoever at keeping Jordan Spieth any longer than you did?
I think if we would have had PGA Tour University, he might have thought about it. But at the time, Jordan had 6 million reasons to turn pro. and we weren't going to get in his way.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
doubt.
Part of the educational experience. One more question. Speaking of that,
Yeah.
some of the lessons learned are in the classroom and on the course, and some are off the course. You had an instance last year where one of your golfers had a educational or learning experience in conjunction with Rory McIlroy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was Luke Potter. And the funny thing about that and he handled it like a champ. It's very difficult to deal with that as a coach. But here's the progression of that. So Luke Potter transferred in from Arizona State. He was a great player. He had won the California State High School when he was 15. He won the California State Amateur when he was 16. He won multiple AJGAs and was a first team AJGA All-American. Went to Arizona State, got sidetracked, created maybe some bad habits. Their complement to 6th Street is Mill Avenue, Mill. I tell him all the time that we're unmilling him, or we are demilling him, because to be successful at the level that he wants to be, and now he's number 6 in PGA Tour University. But here's what happens. We'd only had him for a few months, and when he first got here, he was not playing well because he still had that Mill Avenue in him. Then he starts to play pretty well in the spring, and he wins in Ponte Vedra at Sawgrass Country Club. It's called the Haight, Hayt. It's a guy named Johnny Haight. So he wins his first college golf tournament. And then these little horns kind of popped out of his head like this. And we were the next day on Monday at the first practice round of the Tournament Players Championship. We were leaving the premises. And here's what happens. We're leaving the premises, and he's walking by the 18th tee box, and Rory McIlroy snap hooks one in the water. And this is just a practice round. But he touched a nerve because he yelled out within close proximity. Plus, one of our players had his phone with him. And they weren't doing anything other than just watching, but popping out of his mouth comes you rinsed it just like you did in the Masters, and that really pissed Rory off because obviously that hit him right in the heart because he had choked away a Masters, right? Yeah. So he comes and he takes the phone, and then the sheriffs come and get our guys, and they interview him, and nothing else happens. They don't arrest him or anything. They just we were on our way out anyway, so we left. And then I called Chris Del Conte, told him what happened, and he said, this is Chris Del Conte. He said, Coach, you know that's going to be all over social media. You need to take care of your player because there is going to be some definite blowback on this. And he said that the number one thing I want you to do is take care of your player, meaning don't let him get hurt mentally. So when we got back to our offices, I had him sit down and think about what he had done. He ended up writing a really nice note to Rory McIlroy apologizing. He wrote to the tournament organizers that we had just played. He wrote to the PGA Tour commissioner at the time, and then he wrote to the coach who hosted the tournament. We heard back from everybody, including the PGA Tour commissioner. We're at the very next tournament, and he said, Coach, the PGA Tour commissioner's calling me. You think I should answer it? And I'm like, yeah, you should answer it. And he's like, so he talks to him, and the commissioner's saying, look, don't let this define you. You screwed up, but don't let this define you. And he had already wrote those notes. The commissioner was really nice about it and told him he appreciated the note. And we moved forward from that. But he learned a valuable lesson. He definitely touched a nerve, but he became a Rory McIlroy fan and actually told him in the note, I'm rooting for you. I hope you win the Masters. And then he did. Unbelievable.
Might have been the good luck charm. Coach, yeah. I know we're about out of time. Steve mentioned this, that your assistants, brag on your staff a little bit. I know there's some Central Texas ties there with your coaching staff.
Yeah, I've got 2 great assistants. Both of them have tremendous energy. I need that at my age. They both were high school golf coaches. Coach Eric Henson grew up in Boerne, Texas, and ended up being a great high school coach at Lake Travis, coaching multiple collegiate kids that went to college golf and then had success at a high level. And then he ended up at Highland Park in Dallas with 1 year as an assistant coach at the University of Arizona. In the meantime, we got Clayton Brady, who came out of that Lake Travis program. Coach Clayton Brady then matriculated all the way to being the head golf coach at Houston Memorial. Probably two great programs to become college golf coaches, because you're dealing with such powerful people in those particular schools, meaning they have a lot of stroke in the state of Texas. So you got to work really hard to keep everybody happy and make sure that you're having a chance to win. And both of them did that. And they're doing the exact same thing here. They're working really hard. They want to win, and they work hard in recruiting. They work hard to support me, and they're great with our kids. I couldn't ask for more. And it was great because it kind of pulled in these high school coaches, but it also has had a dramatic effect and success with our program.
Coach, thank you so much. 45 great minutes, and we're rooting for your guys the rest of the way. Vegas this weekend and all season long here in the spring. One of the better golf teams in the country this year, and we'll be rooting all the way to the NCAAs and talking about it here on the Hot Golf Podcast. Keeping up with your guys and the ladies there and everything at UT, part of the 512. Coach, thanks so much. Scott, thanks for making this happen, and thanks for joining us here on episode 12.
Hook 'em horns, y'all. Thank you.
Good to see you, Coach.
Indeed. Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you, Coach Fields. That was awesome. And are you going to drop him off, Charlie, and we can wrap things up?
Yeah, that was great. I'm good to go. Thank you, guys.
See you.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Take it easy, Coach. Best of luck. All right, guys, there you go. Thank you, Scott McConnell, the SID over there for golf. I've known Scott a long time, does basketball as well with Sean Miller and other sports there. But just your general thoughts, Steve. He knew you pretty quick. Remembers you trying to wrangle golf carts and parents at the state tournament there. I mean, you guys go way back, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've been around each other quite a bit, and I met him shortly after he came to town. I've always been just a wonderful man, just such a kind, gentle man, and he has seen some cool stuff over the last few years coaching that University of Texas golf team, and the success that UT has had dating back into the 60s and into what you see today. I had no idea that it was 113 wins, but I was at the facility back in December and got to toured the facility with Coach Henson and Coach Brady, and they recognize all of those players, every one of them, from anybody who's got a tour card or who has had a tour card. They have your bag up on the wall, up on the shelf up there, and there is a bunch of them. And they also give the same standard of care to the ladies program. Their ladies program is incredible. Several tour players have come out of that program as well, and they are doing it right. The only thing that they got going against them is that golf course is too far from campus. But once you get on that piece of property, you are dead square in the middle of the University of Texas. It's just a wonderful program.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie, I know you've been around a while. I've covered, I got on the radio right when John Fields was getting here, as a matter of fact, right in the late 90s, and have been on this run with them and the ups and the downs. So, the 10 years of the lost odds and, Mac Brown, Rick Barnes, Augie Garrido, as he talked about. Well, now it's on the way back up since, the middle of the second decade with all the turmoil and the misalignment. Now it's all back in line. And, not just football with Sark on the rise and baseball with Coach Schloss and Sean Miller. Really, it's being dominated, what Steve just said, by the women's program. Softball just won the national title. Vic Schaefer in women's basketball, the golf teams. So it's both sides. I mean, this is as robust a golf or athletic department as there is in the country. But, on a global level, there's not a bigger brand collegiately in golf than the University of Texas.
There might not be a bigger global brand when it comes to intercollegiate athletic sports than the University of Texas, period. And I think that's the burden or the gift and the burden that Chris Delcani has to carry. And so he carries that with a lot of pride and a lot of gratitude, and he knows that he has to fight for it every day. They are getting the best in class. And if they aren't getting the best in class, the expectation is that they will get the best in class. So these guys know, and to some extent, listening to Coach Fields, his job is a lot easier, not having to work 4.5 scholarships across a dozen guys. And it's 8 scholarships or 9 scholarships, whatever it is, men's, women's, and that's it. And you know, I don't think I got my question across accurately or clear enough to him, but you know, when they have to go every time they line up for a tournament, like they're lining up this week, having to pick their 6th guy, you know, who's going to play as part of the team score, has got to be, you know, a really, really hard decision when he's saying that he's got 2 All-American freshmen just chomping at the bit to get out there and be part of the action. Nice problem to have, but nonetheless, he has to work extra hard to keep those last 2 guys completely engaged so that they're ready to go in case there's an injury or in case someone's going to go play in Bay Hill or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Well, and
I asked him,
you can earn your way on, right? That's the beautiful thing about golf and golf strokes, and shoot a score and you'll make the top 6.
And that's the thing about with Daniel Bennett going to play on the PGA Tour. That's going to provide somebody who otherwise wouldn't get those reps. And so it's good to have him out there. I've always found it strange, both in the high school and collegiate golf circuit, where kids will go play in another event while your team is going to play an away game. It's the strangest thing to me, but those opportunities don't come very often. And so it gives Daniel an opportunity to go play in the big times. And then it's going to give somebody who, you know, may not get that Vegas start the opportunity to get those reps.
It is.
And later this spring, you'll see the University of Texas women's team will have a couple of their players playing in the Augusta Women's National Invitational tournament over there. And that's good recruiting for your program. That's how you keep that brand that is just that much better than and higher considered better than anybody else. And that's what the University of Texas has. And he's right. They don't need a professional football team here in Austin. Well, Aaron, we've talked about this on your program before. The professional football team of Austin is the University of Texas Longhorns. It's just a fact. So it's a great place to be for someone to come in and get their education and to also participate in these sports and elevate themselves maybe to a level that they're hoping to elevate themselves, you know, in the years ahead. It's a wonderful place.
No question. Really, really good stuff, guys, for sure, with the University of Texas and the golfers and what's to come. Let me ask you guys about just some general stuff we saw this weekend. Riviera, Jacob Bridgman wins this thing, kind of won it going away, right? And this guy, kid out of Clemson, that's a good-looking player right there with the best field you're going to find outside of a major. What you guys take away from Riviera? Plus, Tiger Woods in the booth with Jim Nantz, teasing again that he might give it a go at the Masters. And, Trevor Immelman was trying to goad him a little bit. Those were 2 pretty big storylines. Rory played really well. How about Rory making that putt on 18 for about $400,000 to break a tie for 3rd place, rolled it in there. Pretty good golf this weekend out in L.A.
Yeah, incredibly impressed by Bridgman. You got a guy who probably has a 30 tournament calendar. He gets to win out there at Riviera, and he goes ahead and takes this week off. Tiger being in the booth, he's going to play at the Masters. He's going to be there. He's going to play, and he's got a puncher's chance of making the cut on that golf course. So I thought it was a really exciting weekend. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I'm not certain where Rory stands this year. I think he pretty much showed me where he stands. That cat is ready to play. He is going to be a winning threat every week that he tees it up. So it's going to be a wonderful year all the way around.
I think and Steve-O, to kind of dovetail off of what you're saying, I think one of the most interesting things is I like to look at is when they show the guys off to the side when a putt is for the winning putt. So Rory makes his putt, just on the fringe and knocks it in there, rolls it in 40 feet out. All of a sudden, that 20 feet that Bridgman had began to look like 60 feet. And then he lays it up there. I'm thinking this is not going past the hole. Of course, he lays it up there 3 feet short. And that 3 feet was looking like 6 feet. And Rory's just standing over there to the side with his hand on his hip and holding his putter. He's like, okay, let's see what you got, boy. And he just rolled it straight in the heart. And Rory, I saw, off to the side, they showed a replay of it, and he was the first one to put his putter down and applaud the putt being made, because he said to himself, I'm sure he's saying, okay, I gave you all I had, and you took me. So I think this is making up just for more storylines that we're seeing in the early tour season. That's just making this a fascinating year.
And that wrapped up the West Coast swing, and now they'll head to Florida, as we talked about with Bay Hill, into the Florida swing. And interestingly, Charlie, you mentioned something with us on the radio show last week about the conversation about switching the calendar up a little bit in the future on the PGA Tour with the California swing. Pick that up and inform our audience, and we can kick it around for a little bit in our closing few minutes.
Yeah, it appears that there's some discussion about the West Coast swing being kind of reconfigured, if you will, because of the variable is, are they going to do Hawaii anymore? And so are they going to start the year in Hawaii with the Tournament of Champions as well as the Sony Open? Sony's dropped as the title sponsor of the Hawaiian Open. The Tournament of Champions, it's a very limited field of 20 guys maybe, and so it doesn't get the eyeballs. They don't get a whole lot of attendance there on the grounds. So I believe the tour is looking at that as maybe an opportunity to reconfigure the schedule. The other thing about the West Coast swing is the California tournaments typically have about 50% of their play is weather jeopardized. The first two rounds of LA were in not very good conditions. The balls were all plugging in the fairways. Everything was wet. They did get great weather over the weekend, which made great for TV. But in LA, listen, if the weather's bad the first 2 days, the fans aren't going to come out the second 2 days. They just don't. It's just that fickle. So they're trying to figure out how possibly to get the schedule set up so that better weather, more consistent weather is represented on the West Coast part of the swing. Part of that, I believe, could have a domino effect on how the Texas swing is pulled off. And that could have a positive effect if Sony and the Tournament of Champions is out of the equation and they roll the schedule forward to start maybe in Arizona, start the year in Arizona, and then go to a Florida coast swing. And then the next obvious place to come back from Florida and maybe South Carolina, Georgia, is to come back to Texas. That could bring the go-go into the equation for a spring slot, which would make it nice to be able to see, in the spring, you could see San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and then later on Dallas, Fort Worth. That would make for a pretty robust Texas schedule. All speculative, but nonetheless seems to make some sense. And hopefully somebody out there will have some pull and get kind of the schedule consolidated in a way that it's not so fragmented as it has been in the past.
Any thoughts on that, Steve, as we wrap this thing up? And anything else in the local scene going on that people need to know about, other than the weather is turning? I think we're done with freezes, and it's going to be a heck of a run here, February into March. Yeah,
the mesquites are starting to pop. Therefore, winter is just about over. That's our groundhog here in Texas. Is once the mesquites start to bloom, winter is finished. Back to what Charlie was saying, our swing depends on the Texas swing depends on the sponsor. Just 100% depends on the sponsor and the money that's going into the event. If the event is a larger sponsored event, bigger purse, better players, more viewership, it all works hand in hand. Around here, we don't have a sponsored event, but the City of Austin Golf ATX, we're putting on the spring championship, and that is going to be at Roy Kaiser, and the sign-up has opened for that. You can sign up there at golfatx.org under our tournaments link. And we'll have a full field of 125 player. What's that?
What's the date on that?
Yeah, I don't know, Charlie.
Okay. Soon, guys.
I'm like, I hope nobody asks me the date. You can find it on golfatx.org. We have our spring championship and our spring partnership, and I just don't have the dates in my head today. But we have both of those dates, both of those tournaments coming up soon. So you can find our information out there. But it's time for the weather to change for us. Things are about to get good, and the time changes next week, where it's March 8th, daylight savings times begins, and you can play golf after work and hit balls after work and not have to worry about the darkness at 6:30.
No question. Can't wait for that. And that means warmer conditions and more golf, which, as you said with Coach Fields, you already have twice as many golfers as you have holes in golf courses. But that's a good problem, but it also leads to problems here in Austin, Texas. That's why we do the Hot Golf Podcast, episode 12 holes in. exciting, man. Where we've followed, from all walks. Omar Uresti is a lifetime Longhorn. He was a guest of ours. His brother, of course, played baseball at the University of Texas, Rusty, and so many great guests and conversations week by week here on the Hot Golf Podcast. Share it with a friend when you find it at our YouTube page for 1027 ESPN, and follow it, like it, and subscribe to it. Send it along to a friend who loves golf here in Central Texas or golf anywhere, because these conversations can matriculate wherever it needs to. Guys, we appreciate it. I know, Charlie, you want to remind folks to rake their bunkers and fill their divots, right?
Absolutely. Keep those golf courses in good shape, and don't leave me any problems when I hit it astray, please.
Yeah, and get over to Callahan's and get your yard looking good. Time to fertilize and all those fun things as well.
It is time.
Just like we're doing on the golf courses. The mesquites are popping. Guys, thanks a lot. Thanks for University of Texas Golf Coach John Fields, UT, for setting that up, and Charlie for doing the legwork on it. Steve-O, Charlie, good to see you, and hit them straight this week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Y'all take care.